Superdeep is a 2020 Russian horror film directed by Arseny Syuhin. It's based on the real-life Kola Superdeep borehole. Anna Fedorova, a Russian epidemiologist, tries to resign when her study collaborator, Dr. Zotov, volunteered to test a vaccine on himself without prior or animal testing, which resulted in his death. Colonel Morozov of the military intelligence, who was in charge of the project, persuades her to continue human trials without preliminary or animal testing in order to get the vaccine to Russian forces in Africa as swiftly as possible. Anna is later commended on her ability to quickly produce a vaccination while celebrating the new year with family and friends. She then gets a call from the colonel, who informs her that they'll be leaving for the Kola borehole soon. Apparently, deep beneath the surface, sounds of unknown origin were detected, and 20 people went missing shortly after. And to get the introductory explanation, Mega Projects actually says it best.
Home to one of the most extraordinary engineering feats of all time. But today, all that remains is a small, rusted metal plate seemingly bolted straight into the ground. Beyond this metal cap, though, lies a vast chasm. The deepest man-made hole in the world, the Kola Superdeep borehole.
So this movie is based on that. As Mega Projects so eloquently said, the borehole is actually a deep subterranean research lab, and contrary to popular belief, Dr. Grigoriev, the hospital's head of research, has been accused of concealing an unknown disease within this facility. Our main character, Anna, is given the responsibility of retrieving samples and is promised that if she succeeds, she will become the head of the Military Biological Defense Institute. The colonel, Anna, and a team of soldiers led by Major Sergei Makiev are taken to the ice-covered facility in Murmansk by helicopter. When the chopper lands, a wobbling man approaches them and refuses to follow their directions. I mean, they warned this guy several times to stop, but he does not. Despite being shot multiple times, he gets up, understandably to the crew's horror, and continues advancing towards the chopper. That's freaking creepy. If I shoot someone with high-caliber bullets and they get up and they're still walking like nothing happened, you bet your ass I'm gonna be very concerned, and I'm gonna be putting a great distance between me and whatever that thing is. The guy offs himself by detonating a hand grenade while causing minor damage to the chopper and its passengers. It turns out everyone is fine. Anna then goes out to inspect the man. When Anna examines the man's body, she notices that the tissue has a subtle red glow about it, and that the sample that she takes from the body disintegrates swiftly. The glow is very mysterious to her, but so is the rapid disintegration of the sample. What's going on here? While the other employees of the plant who are being evacuated display no symptoms, Anna suspects that they're being deceived. One of the men with a scar on his face, named Zimin, warns Anna that they're being lied to. He claims that this isn't an illness and that the facility's bottom levels are hell itself. He tells her that she better go back home while she still can. The facility's deputy head of research, Peter Kuznetsov, and the man who reported Dr. Grigoriev's disease secrecy greet Anna, the colonel, and the team. Dr. Grigoriev wants assurances that the remaining personnel trapped in the facility's lower levels during the evacuation will be rescued. In exchange, he'll help the team because he altered all the security passwords before the squad arrived. Cheeky old man, you know exactly what you're doing. The group travels underground by truck to a facility elevator. The former director proves that the passcodes have in fact been changed and that he is the only person who knows them. In addition to the passcodes, an elevator key is required. That's this thing that Peter stuck into the elevator. That will be important later. You know, I can't help but just imagine video games whenever I watch these kinds of movies. Anyway, if they get the wrong password and they get it wrong like 3 times, the elevator will go back down as a security precaution. After telling everyone that he can't think with a gun to his head, Dr. Grigoriev finally, on the 3rd try, enters the right passcode, and the elevator is activated, which I think he did just to prove a point. The group then descends the facility, which is around 5,220 meters below the ground level. The elevator brakes fail to respond during the descent. Dr. Grigoriev depressurizes the elevator and puts on an oxygen mask. Dr. Grigoriev then escapes into the facility with the elevator key as the rest of the party passes out, which was seemingly his plan all along. The team arrives on the resort level, which is the facility's living quarters. According to the local map, there's an elevator from the surface to the resort, as well as another elevator on the other side of the resort that leads to the Sahara research level. There are additional switchback passageways extending from each level up to the surface in a shaft, but they're sealed and the temperatures inside are 200 degrees, necessitating the use of protective suits. They discover an engineer named Nikolai, Hyun, a doctor named Kira. Yeah, it turns out they were holed up in the cafeteria on the resort level. Apparently they were left behind during the first evacuation. Even till now, the cunning Dr. Grigoriev has yet to be found. Kira and Nikolai are tested in the medical lab. Lucky for them, they show no signs of infection. Dr. Grigoriev approaches Anna and begs her to evacuate the others up the shaft because he cannot give her the elevator key. Anna doesn't trust him, and she lets the others know he's there. He is wounded by the soldiers and flees using the elevator down to the Sahara research level. And I don't know why they used the scream that they did, but it sent me mad.
Always be a priority.
Did you hear that?
Since then, the sound has been used in more than 100 films.
They really need to stop doing that. Like, the way she looks right now with her hands covering her head, that's how I feel every time they do that. They really need to stop doing that. I mean, come on. I mean, there's people making sound effects on YouTube for free every day. You have a gigantic website called My Instance with a whole bunch of screams. Do you have to keep using that one? The Major decides that they should utilize the shaft to drop into the Sahara in search of Dr. Grigoriev. The gang discovers the access door to the shaft leading to the research level, but it has been welded shut by Dr. Grigoriev before the evacuation. The door is covered with scratches that spell out dire threats like "help us" and "rescue us from evil," as well as "insatiable hunger" in Latin. When the doors are opened from within the shaft, a party of soldiers led by Egorov put on temperature protective suits and make preparation to descend the shaft to go to the Sahara research level. While Egorov and his colleagues descend the shaft, a lone lab assistant called Olga is discovered without any protective gear and is transported back to the med lab for examination and tests. This girl only appears to have a fever, yet claims to be very cold, even though she just literally walked through a furnace without any protective suit whatsoever. Something is very wrong with her, and they soon figure that out when they realize that something is squelching on her back. They cut her clothes away, and to their horror, she looks like a freaking fungal canvas, something out of H.R. Geiger. Anna takes a sample of her back, which is covered in mole-like growths that weren't there 15 minutes ago. It's like every time you turn your head, it gets bigger when you then look back at it, which means that this moldy stuff, or fungus, grows very rapidly, and is revealed to be a particularly dangerous strain. Ugh.
Disgusting!
Olga and the mole sample had the same faint red glow as the man who had set off the grenade. That means that the same thing that affected him is affecting her, and it's spreading rapidly. Poor Olga gets very scared as she soon realizes she has no control over her own body. During the descent through the shaft, Egorov calls back to say that something doesn't seem right. His men seem to be freaking out. Dr. Grigoriev says over the intercom that since they chose not to flee through the shaft, well, he has no choice but to seal them all within the facility.
I guess we will all stay here.
Dr. Grigoriev sets off an explosion that destroys the facility's pressure pump, which would cause the facility to collapse in on itself in under an hour. Crunch. That's exactly what would happen to the facility. When Anna and Major return to the med lab, they find a very gruesome sight. The walls coated with mold, looking like something from out of a horror movie, starring Samara and The Grudge. They're wondering where Olga is, and then they see her, half melted to the floor, as the fungus had taken over her body. But somehow, she's still alive. Oh my god, can you imagine? This fungus thing is an SCP, I swear to god. Anna smartly tells the other guys not to come in, as she knows this thing is very infectious. The whole thing starts to glow red, and there's these pustule pulsating things. Anna tries to take samples, and then they start to expand. So then this idiot tries to help her, but like, bro, you see that she has a cloth over her face, right? But you don't. Like, I don't know. I see some big expanding balloon-like alien thing. It's getting bigger and bigger and stretching and pulsating. And I know this thing is infectious. And you have nothing over your face, dude. Not even your hand. Not even your natural skin handkerchief. Your skin kerchief. Nothing? Really? I never taught you in the military about biological warfare? Okay. Common sense. Apparently eludes this person. Mm-hmm. Yep. Can't say I couldn't see that coming. Anna is able to get a gas mask when the cloud of spores releases from Ola's body, but Major Dude, the stupid idiot that he is, chose to put his face within kissing distance to a highly infectious person without a mask. Whatever. Anna is dumb too, but she gets lucky, but then unlucky. When after she puts the gas mask on, she's attacked by Kira, the doctor. Dr. Kira, who has obviously been severely infected and is mutated in the same way as Olga. But Anna's the main character, so she'll be fine. Meanwhile, unfortunately for stupid Darwin Award guy here, it's already displaying indications of infection. Anna had discovered that the mole dies when exposed to cold, and just moments ago she had used the fire extinguisher to exit the med lab and disinfect herself. Peter hypothesizes that the mole is comparable to cordyceps, a fungus that compels ants to return to their colony and then releases spores of the fungus to the rest of the ant population. What happens to the ant when they're infected by the fungus is exactly the same thing that's happening to the humans in this movie. It's a horrible thing to even just imagining this happening to your body. And these fungi have done it with several different organisms, specifically invertebrates. Nasty. And that was also the case in The Last of Us, the popular video game and the movie Girl with All the Gifts. Anyway, the Colonel is briefed on the issue, and Anna explains that the mold cannot thrive in freezing temperatures, and that the permafrost surrounding the facility is blocking the mold from spreading. The mold can only live in a warm-bodied host, but if the host dies in a chilly environment, the mold will perish as well, as the coal seeps in on it. Anna tries to persuade the Colonel not to try to remove anyone afflicted or any samples from the facility, but he believes that with the Soviet Union's dwindling status, a new biological weapon is required to ensure their authority and global influence. So understandably, he sees this as an opportunity, but unfortunately, he has no idea what he's dealing with. As the remaining team prepares to ascend the shaft while wearing protective suits with the infected Major, using him as the thing that they're going to experiment on when they get to the surface, they receive a radio message from Aragov warning them that they're under attack and that they should not open the lower level shaft door even if it's them. But the Major insists that they go back for Egorov and the rest of his squad. In pursuit of Egorov and the rest of the squad, 3 soldiers enter the shaft to the lower levels. Not long after, gunfire is heard and only 2 of the soldiers return, claiming that they came across something large that their guns had no impact on, and that it now knows where they are. The third guy that had been left behind comes back missing an arm and offs himself, probably knowing that there's no hope for him, and death would be better than whatever's coming next. According to the guys, the shaft has been destroyed. Anna and the team soon start to hear something pounding on the shaft doors. Understandably, everybody's about wetting their pants right now, knowing that it's something huge that's making that noise. Eventually, the doors are broken open. Nikolai, the engineer, advises that they take the elevator to the lower floor to get away from whatever it is that just broke in through the shaft. Now, they can't see what it is yet, but they can definitely hear it, and all it sounds like is human screams and heavy footfalls. The soldiers, including the Major, stay behind to fight whatever this monster is that's after them, while the rest of the soldiers descend in the elevator. When Anna, Nikolai, Peter, and the Colonel make it to the bottom level, they find that it is frozen and appears to be deserted. They discover a tape recorder with Dr. Grigoriev's final remarks recorded on it. He believes the mold was stopped by the Ice Age millions of years ago, and that it has the capacity to control not only the infected's muscle and nervous systems, but also meld them together. The group then comes across a wall of infected melted together. Ugh. And they're melted together due to the cold. Before he dies, Dr. Grigoriev says he will leave the research level and view the organism one final time, remarking that as scary as it is still beautiful. Yo, this is some disgusting ass, there's a game that my partner was playing, streaming, Inside. Seriously, that was a really, really good game. You guys should definitely try it out if you get the chance. It's called Inside. I believe it's available on Steam, here or there. Well, actually, it is here, because this monster is basically the same thing. Anyway, unfortunately for the group, Dr. Grigoriev took the elevator key with him, so the Colonel makes a decision to venture inside the 200-degree environment to retrieve it, because Dr. Grigoriev is out there. Anna actually made the decision to go, but the Colonel said that she's much more needed in the world than he is. Such a brave man. They say that the human body can survive in those conditions for a total total of 5 minutes before they die, so it's a race for time, which is basically impossible.
Last year, one poor fellow went outside with a damaged cooling system. And 5 minutes later, we cut the suit off him with his skin.
5 minutes.
Now, from what I understand, there is a method for the suits to stay cool if they have to work in hot environments or cases, but Dr. Grigoriev ruined all of the protective suits. So there's no way for people, even if they're wearing the suits, to actually be protected from the heat overall, which is what this guy was talking about. One of his comrades having to have the suit been cut off of him because the skin and the suit melted together. Imagine going into a 200-degree furnace, and then on top of that, your suit is cooking you when it's supposed to be protecting you. The colonel makes the decision to go regardless. Before he leaves, he tells Anna that she was right all along in not allowing the mole to leave the institution, and that she can accomplish more good than he can. He has an obligation to report what happened in the facility because he's an officer, even if they make it back. That's why she should go and not him, so that nobody can know what happened here. Which is always weird to me, because in these movies, if you don't want anyone to know what happened here, but you found out what happened here, don't you think that somebody at some point is going to find out what happened here and open it? But humans are stupid. You'll tell them that something has the power to end the entire world, and they'll still want it because they think they can control it to just a specific region of someplace else for their enemies. Meanwhile, it comes back to bite them in their own neck and everyone globally that had nothing to do with it. If they make this out alive, Anna, Peter, and Nikolai agree that they must not inform anybody about the mold, since somebody will ultimately try to research it and put all of life on Earth in jeopardy. You see, Dr. Grigoriev and the other lower-level researchers had attempted to keep the mold a secret, and when it was discovered, Dr. Grigoriev attempted to lock the facility to prevent the mold and any knowledge of it from escaping. Dr. Grigoriev is actually a hero. Just an interesting thing I found about slime mold. I mean, now I don't think that cordyceps are defined as slime molds per se, but it's very interesting how people come up with this. And here is an excerpt from the video, What Humans Can Learn from Semi-Intelligent Slime by Heather Barnett. It was a TED Talk that helps give some insight into how they come up with these monsters in these movies, like the one in Superdeep.
The conclusion from their experiment was that the slime mold had a primitive form of intelligence. Another study exposed cold air at regular intervals to the slime mold. It didn't like it, doesn't like it cold.
Just like the mold in this movie. Interessante. After Nikolai, Peter, and Anna realize that the colonel is not coming back, he probably didn't make it, Anna decides to walk out into the 200-degree environment where the organism makes its little hub where it lives. It's like the place where it congregates. So she can be next to try and fetch the elevator key, and you can see how really hot it is. Not only that, but it has spores all over the place. The colonel is found dying. She tries to save him by bringing him back, but everything is so hot. She has no protection whatsoever. She realizes that even if she were to bring him back, he's completely blind and too burnt to survive, but he has the key. Now all that's left is for Anna to take the key back. It's foggy, she can't see well, so she takes off her mask. When she does, she can see the glowing mold all over the place. It likes the heat, so it's made its home here. Melting the bodies and everything together also helps generate heat, which the mold has discovered. After escaping the cave, glowing red with all the mold covering all the walls, Nikolai carries her in and tries to treat her wounds. Unfortunately, Peter has turned on them and wants the key. You see, he's down with the sickness. He wants to go to the surface and claim credit for uncovering the mold. For scientists and researchers, their career depends on whether or not they can be successful, especially at discovering brand new things that could change the world, even at the expense of everyone's lives. Peter shoots Nikolai to show that he's serious, but he decides that they will be useful, probably going to use them as bait. When the three of them return to the resort level, they hear cries and moans every now and then. Peter tells Nikolai to check it out, but since Peter shot him in the leg, Nikolai can't really go anywhere. Anna decides to go voluntarily. Anna finds a gun, but Peter catches her and tells her to drop it. As karma would have it, Peter is attacked by a massive monstrosity made up of screaming, afflicted people who have all merged into one organism like that blob I showed you from that game Inside. It's kind of scary because you see the faces of all the people that they knew that look as though they're still there and they're in agony and pain and terror. The mold is just using them. To get past the beast and retrieve the elevator key from Peter, Anna hides in the cafeteria freezer. Knowing that the mold doesn't like cold things, Anna has an idea. She pours the cold water all over herself and drinks some of it, or drinks some of the alcohol, after removing most of her clothes. Because she is so cold, the creature can't can't detect her. She goes underneath it to retrieve the key, with the faces of her friends and the other soldiers all around her. These people look like they're in agony. Anna goes back to Nikolai, and the two of them barely escape the creature by taking the elevator to the surface. They start their ascent with the elevator key, but they find that the Major had been there and he dissolved into the floor. The Major is the one that is actually nice when he was stupid and put his face down in front of the spores, which then tooted in his face, and now he's full-blown fungus. The Major pleads Anna to not go to the surface because then it would result in the extinction of all life on the planet. He can barely speak, but he's trying even though he is helpless to save the rest of the world. This is freaking depressing, man. Jesus Christ. Anna stops the elevator. Unfortunately, Nikolai is adamant on getting out of the facility at whatever cost. Anna keeps trying, but when she doesn't give up, Nikolai decides to kill her. The Major, seemingly having strong feelings for Anna, does his one last act of defiance, breaks his arm bone from off of the rest of his melted body, and kills Nikolai. Anna is glowing red already. She's infected, so she can't go to the surface anyway. Since she's already infected, she kisses the Major, knows the only way now to get the elevator to stop is to enter the code 3 times incorrectly. That would cause the elevator to fall, but she literally is fighting the mold that knows that she's trying to do that. Now that it's a part of her, it knows her thoughts. Anna is able to enter the incorrect code 2 times before the elevator stops, and a hazmat crew drags her away. But right before they do, she enters the 3rd incorrect sequence. They save her as the elevator falls back down to the lower levels. Anna is aware that she's infected. These people want to save her, and they probably want to use her for experimentation. That's why they're all wearing masks, but she grabs a grenade from one of the guys. She compels him to let her go, and she realizes it's a little bit too late because everyone knows about this place and what's happening. There are helicopters and a bunch of people in hazmat suits, and she threatens to blow herself up. Then at the last moment before the movie ends, we see somebody giving what looks like a sedative to her before she can pull the pin on the grenade. We're left not knowing whether or not she was able to pull that pin as that guy stabbed her with a needle, or whether or not she got captured. And that was the movie Superdeep. This movie was very interesting, the creature was interesting, and definitely had some Last of Us vibes. I think exploring mold and fungus and more mysterious unknown organisms like that haven't been studied very well, or we don't know everything about, makes for an interesting movie monster. Go rent Superdeep, go check it out. Thanks for watching.